Hey, everybody. What's up? It's Mike from the Relating Revolution. How are you tonight? Looking forward to speaking with you today. Please drop a hello, give me a comment, give me a thumbs up, some of that Facebook love. And so tonight I'm on day 20 of 30 of this challenge. This is actually a challenge to do something for 30 days in a row in the modern busy world that we all live in here. And but it's been really good. So today I'm going to talk about the prompts for today. I'm going to read them, get this cool little thing here. How can you share more of your personal philosophy or core values so that people can get to know you on a deeper level? And where are some areas where you've learned some valuable life lessons that you want to teach to others? And so I'm going to start right from what I think is the beginning of all this. When I'm about 5 or 6 years old, I'm sitting on my mom's lap. I'm in our living room. We're watching TV, and some of the images on the news on the evening news, which was like the common thing to do in the day, were just overwhelming and bombarding me. And I remember having, we don't remember a lot of the things oftentimes when we're so young, but I remember having a distinct moment of feeling so overwhelmed by the suffering of the world that I made a decision to stop feel like I told myself I can't feel this anymore. And the really interesting thing that happens here is that kids can make decisions in such a powerful way that they actually get encoded into our neurology, our biology, and our chemistry, and they really happen. So I literally shut down, and now I know what that shutting down is freezing, and the survival mechanism of the brain has only three gears. It has fight, flight, or freeze. You've probably heard of these things. But what I did as a 5 year old was I went into frozen mode. And a lot of people don't really realize that, like, we talk about depression, right? But depression really is actually being frozen. That's what it is. And so you're not in fight, which is anger. You're not in flight, which is fear. You're beyond both of those, and you're frozen, and you're depressed, and you go numb, and you have lethargy and fatigue and numbness and some confusion and apathy and things like that. And so I decided to shut down at age 5. And of course, I was still like an active kid. I still like, but there was something off. There was something wrong from that point forward. And what this looked like when I got a little bit older was, extreme excessive sleep. I'm not just talking about teenager stuff, you know, and really just just being insulated and isolated and unable to be intimate with people and things like that. And I hit it. I hit it well. I was a well, I was a smart kid. I was a popular kid. I was a good athlete, etc. But eventually, over time, I couldn't hide it so well anymore, and I started really sleeping a lot. You know, my friends would be like, "Dude, what do you mean you missed your class at 2 o'clock? And you have to only sign up for classes in college after noon because you can't make a class before noon." And I would even still miss some classes at 1 or 2, and I would start pressing the snooze button at 8 in the morning, and I would press snooze every 9 minutes for 6 hours. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? And so lots of numbing behaviors, lots of, then alcohol and marijuana into the mix, and things getting worse and worse, and number. And also, the very far end of the spectrum of that freeze is also, the freeze is really like shutting down to the point of like, so there was also like suicidal ideation and tendencies and things like that. And so, not good, not a good scenario. And so at that moment, but when it got in the real depths of it, of course, as is often the case, a breakup and, some things were going on in my outer life that kind of brought this to the fulmination. And in that moment of like the most severe, deepest, darkest place that really any human being can go to, that I was in, these guys who would typically be like considered, you know, if you looked at them from the outside, and a lot of people would judge them from the outside as jocks or, frat guys or something like that. These guys intervened and surrounded me. They literally came into my room. They called the counseling center. They came into my room. They got in bed with me because I was just in bed crying all day, every day. They told me that they loved me, and that I had to go home. I had to go home, and it wasn't a choice. That my family was on the way to come pick me up, and I was being removed from school, and I was going to have to go into twice a day therapy sessions and live with my parents, and this was really humbling time. I was a varsity athlete. I was like, cool and yada yada yada, and all of a sudden, like, my friends are telling me, like, dude, you're out of here. You got to go home. So I went into the therapy, and I was like, therapy's lame. I'm not doing therapy, and yada yada yada. But I did it, and this guy, I connected with the therapist, and his name was Jed, and he was he reminded me very much of Robin Williams in the movie Good Will Hunting, which is one of my favorite movies. And he was just had this just like real masculine but nurturing spirit, like a, like a real man. Not the macho without the nurturing spirit, but like he was strong, but he was also open and sensitive, and that was really beautiful. That was so helpful for me to see a role model. That he opened me up to meditation and like all these things, and just my life turned around. And so what I realized there is that, and this is the core value part that I want to share with you, is that I realized that I shut down who I really am. And that at age 5, all to that point, that is what led little bit by little bit by little bit by little bit to a lot of severe depression, shutting off to who I really am. And who I really am and who I really was then was someone who has just a tremendous amount of innate empathy and compassion. And love, as cliche or as corny as you want to say it is the most important thing in my life. Love is the only thing that matters. And so what I really want to do, so that I set out from that point on, I pivoted, and I was like, love is the only purpose. Service is the only purpose. Making the world a better place is the only reason why we're here. It's the only fulfillment. It's the only thing that matters. And so then I set out from that point on to healing in the ways that I needed to heal, but also becoming, and I also realized though that I needed to not just heal myself, but then to ultimately, there's only so much that we can do as an individual. We need to share the love. We need to spread the love. We need to uplift others. We need to be in service to something bigger than ourselves. Because actually, here's something that is very humbling, very humbling. And you heard my history about depression. This isn't a judgment statement, but actually, depression is an extreme degree of self absorption. What about me? What does it say about me? Oh, everything is so awful, and we horribilize and we terribilize and we insulate and we isolate, and that is depression. But the real freedom is realizing that that we are connected to something greater, that there is something bigger to serve, that there is love that we can share with others, that we can have family and friends and community and contribution is where it's at. This is the biggest reward. And I'm not talking about martyrdom. I'm not talking about sacrificing yourself at the altar of like other people's drama or burning yourself out. I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about becoming a professional at loving, at contributing, at serving. And that is really those are my core values. That's not, that's not a sales pitch. That's who I always have been. And when I shut it down, it resulted in serious problems. And when I opened back up to it, it took me time because I shut it down for so long to open back up to the full breadth and depth and awesomeness of that, to that true expression of like love, which is now joyful and grateful and smiles, and depression is gone. Guys, we don't need to live with this stuff forever. It can be gone. You can octave to a new level of being such that you leave problems and problem orientations and things that you think are, uncurable, unfixable. They can be completely gone. Depression is gone. Trauma is gone. Uh, you know, by anyone's definition, I've met the standards for post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm a licensed clinician. I understand what the diagnostic criteria are. I've met every single criteria by anyone's standards. Gone. That's gone. Panic attacks every day for multiple times a day, for years at a time, gone. Haven't had one in years. Now, anxiety, still there. There's still some anxiety there. But hey, depression gone, trauma gone, panic gone. Yeah, I still get anxious. I still get anxious. I still have a very finely tuned, highly sensitive nervous system, and I still get anxious and I still work with that. But that'll be gone to someday too. I'm not talking about not occasionally feeling sadness or occasionally feeling fear or worry or those. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like a a kind of consistent, maybe um, quote unquote diagnosable version. Anxiety is like so greatly diminished, but still there to a certain degree, and that will also be gone, right? So I'm just being real with you. I'm just being honest with you. So there are things that we can do. Our brain, our bodies, our minds, our spirits. We are miraculous beings. We can do. There is a ways. There are methods. There are maps, tools, and instructions, right? And that's what I now share with the world, right? That's, my compassion has turned into my calling, right? My suffering had turned into the very fuel, the the things that I needed to figure out to solve my own suffering problems are the very things that have brought me happiness and joy, and are the very reasons why I now have something to contribute to something greater than myself. And this is the magic, folks. This is the magic, and it doesn't need to be a similar path. It doesn't need to be the same outer circumstances, but there is something archetypal about this that is true for a lot of us. Is like that we rise on the ground over which we once stumbled. The very obstacles that used to hold us back turn into those stops, turn into steps to being who we really are and to living a life that's worth loving. All right. So that's it for today. I love you all. Have a beautiful day. Check out the description. We do have a new Relating Revolution cohort coming up in the beginning of March. Going to be doing a free Facebook challenge on that in the middle of the month. And so keep an eye on things. Send me a message. Drop me a hello. Love to hear from you. Ask questions. I love when people ask questions. It's so much, it's so great when I get to answer those things that are live and organic for people. And so here I am. Fantastic. Luna, thank you. It's so nice to see you. And I love you all. Have a beautiful night.